marriages actually struggle with second to third pregnancy. Okay, hi everybody, how you doing? Thank you for your prayers, thank you for your wishes, thank you for subscribing, thank you for sharing my story, thank you for sharing your story, for those that commented and could relate with how I felt, those that I helped. I actually thought at that video I was going to get bashed. Like, I was scared, but my assumptions were valid, and obviously I did my research to be sure of the numbers and the percentage I put out. And from the comment section and the people that slid into my DM, I realized that yes, a lot of women, a lot of marriages actually struggle with second to third pregnancies. Even for some that I found out, they struggled with the first one too, especially if it happened like almost immediately after marriage and all of that. But yeah, we are here, and I'm not feeling too well today. I was going to postpone this, but this is one of the crucial parts of our pregnancy, and I really need to share it. In fact, because of the delay, I've had to do voice notes to people who are already probably close to when they need the information and all of that. So today I'm going to be talking about sickle cell, prenatal diagnosis, and everything that surrounds you being at risk of having a child with health defects or genetic issues and all of that. So now we've agreed that we need to go ahead with this pregnancy, right? And one of the things that was going to encourage me to just pull through was the prenatal diagnosis test. I first heard about prenatal diagnosis test in 2018 after I had my son, and a friend asked me if we did the prenatal diagnosis. I'm like, what is prenatal diagnosis? So obviously she briefed me. And it was after the brief I realized that was the same thing our doctor discussed with us while we were pregnant with Adia, and we blatantly refused because the counseling was quite archaic. It wasn't in depth, and obviously we were in denial. At that time, we just found out like a few months earlier, and we were still thinking, what are we going to do? And we had concluded that we were going to go through with IVF, genetic selection, and at that time I think at Bridge Clinic it was about 6 million. I'm not sure, please don't quote me anyway, but if you wanted to now do genetic selection with IVF, it came with an extra cost, and we're still considering it when I found out I was pregnant that year. So when I went for my first visit to the doctor when I was pregnant with my first child, he mentioned it, and he was like, oh, but it could lead to miscarriage. Immediately I heard that, I just said, no, I'm not doing it. And obviously my husband supported me that this is something we've been looking for. We're just very hopeful that it would lead to something that was going to be positive, and we just trusted God. And it doesn't mean that the outcome was that God didn't love us or he didn't love our child. I feel like I always say it that I'm in this situation today not even for myself, but for the millions of other people who will learn through me, who will learn through my situation, who will learn through my story. And I'm so lucky. We are so lucky. Our child is super strong. She's super strong. She's just she's just this carefree, my life is beautiful kind of person, and you really can't brood around her. So when I was pregnant with my son, we couldn't do it because by the time I found out I was pregnant, I was already 15 weeks plus gone. I didn't know I was pregnant, and when I did my first scan, it was 15 weeks 5 days or thereabouts. So I had passed the stage where we could do the test. I was unstable, I was confused, I didn't understand what was going on. How can I be pregnant for a whole 15 weeks and I would not know? So that pregnancy was very short, I couldn't experience all the things that came with pregnancy. But I'm really, then I was angry that, oh, I didn't experience the whole joy and everything. But now I'm grateful because, man, this one has just been different. We'll talk about that in another episode. Anyway, so she really briefed me. She did it for her son. She told me how much she did it then and all of that. So I was like, okay, I do not intend to get pregnant anytime soon, but if at all, we'll go this route. And I'd been reading about it, educating people about it. But you know, educating people about something you've not really gone through is different from educating people about something you've experienced. So I reached out to this friend and told her that, oh, this is what is going on. I'm pregnant, I'm 7 weeks gone or thereabouts. And she was like, oh, that's good. No, I was 8 weeks gone when I told her. And she was like, oh, that's good, so you can do the test in another 2 weeks. And the tests cost, that she doesn't know what it cost recently, but she gave me a number, so which was quite easy for me because we already use Sickle Cell Foundation for my daughter. So I called them, and you know, they gave me a brief breakdown of the cost, what would be required and everything, but I didn't really hear the time exactly I could do the tests. I wasn't paying attention because I felt like I already had that information from my friend. Okay, so, and this is where emergency fund comes in. So like, it wasn't a planned pregnancy, so it meant that whatever cost was coming around that time needed to come from our emergency fund. So we needed to pull this money out of our emergency fund, and we thank God that we had it. It cost us 310,000 naira at the time we did it. Before we paid, I reached out to my HMO, you know, let's see if we can even cut some costs, and they needed to understand why we needed to do the test. So we're required to repeat the whole family's genotype tests. I don't know if you guys remember the post about getting wrong genotype test again, even though it had happened in our lives before. And so we went to our new hospital, the current hospital that we use, and my 2 kids, so I didn't have to repeat mine because while I was having the migraine episode and the chemical imbalance, my test was done from beginning to the end, so it was still under 6 months. And so my husband repeated his and my children, and all 3 results came out as AS. Like, I was destabilized. So I called their betting hospital. So I had both of them at the same hospital, but with my son, another branch handled his what's that thing, the newborn registry and certification and all of that, because we had gone to the other branch. So I called the branch for my son, and they said, oh, they lost some records, blah 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 blah, but they will get back to me and they will look for it if it's among the things that wasn't missing. How will you lose records? Anyways, I called my daughter's branch, same. Oh, I called them and they said, oh yeah, they lost some records, same thing. So apparently, I don't know, it's the same hospital, they probably use the same system and all of that, and they lost records. And so now it meant that I could not even argue the result that we were given in the new current hospital because there was no old record to, you know, justify it. And I never had to repeat the test when we started using Sickle Cell Foundation because obviously you can't just come. Anyway, we didn't have to repeat the test at that time. Anyway, they called me back 2 days. They called me from my son's hospital 2 days after the first call and told me that it was AC. And so I told them that I needed them to send me as a mail because I needed to show somebody. So on that day when they sent me the mail, I had an appointment with my gynecologist to do this first scan for me to take to Sickle Cell Foundation because you're going to have to take your scan. I'm going to get to that anyway. So I spoke to the gynecologist. The email came in while I was in with him, and I expressed myself, and then he called a specialist at Ife, one of the teaching hospitals in Ife, and the man is an hematologist, and he explained how that can happen. Maybe myself or my husband was carrying two homogeneous or something traits. So it meant that at different times of our lives we'll be having different genotype. As in, you know, this was to justify that the current genotype was right. I was just like, what if that is the case? Are we supposed to sometimes treat our children for sickle cell and other times not treat them for sickle cell? Then no, I needed to get to the bottom of this. So he also suggested that we went to another lab to repeat the test. So I took my kids to another lab to repeat the tests, and my son came out as AC, and my daughter came out as AS. Now this is the second time my daughter was testing AS and my son's own second time is testing AC. Meanwhile, even when he was born, we had to test up to 4 times to get that AC. And with this country as well. So this was his own about 6 tests, genotype tests. I started getting confused. I was angry. I cried. I was like, what is going on? I hoped they were right, that my daughter was on sickle cell, right? But at the same time, I'm like, we've been loading this child with medications, treatments relating to sickle cell. So I called several people that I know. I think I put up stuff on my story, and a couple of people reached out to me with contacts of hematologists, and they concluded that there were only 2 places in Nigeria that they can be sure that, oh, if they do it, then that means it is what it is. And one of the places they mentioned was Sickle Cell Foundation. So I was just like, okay, there's no point, let's just go back to Sickle Cell Foundation and repeat this test. So I went and they're like, oh, when I came to register my daughter, was it that she wasn't tested or something? When we registered my daughter, we didn't register as a private patient. We registered as a referred patient for a certain test that we needed to do. So we were referred from our hospital to Sickle Cell Foundation. So it was via referral letter, and they expected that for them to have referred us, they must have confirmed that she was a carrier. So I said no, yeah, blah blah blah. So I said, okay, I want to repeat my test and that of my kids. My husband wasn't there that day, and I shared a video of that day where we went, but obviously people didn't know what was going on and all of that. We are here to confirm the final verdict over genotype. Hopefully this journey towards confusion would end today, or the day we get our results. So yeah, Ahmad, say hi. Hadia, say hi. And the poking, my son cried, my daughter cried. At some point I cried because obviously I was already having morning sickness. The ride to Lute was, oh my god, it was so long. The traffic was unbearable. I was throwing up. I had my kids throwing tantrums, and I had gone to work earlier. I went to pick them from school, change them in the car, take them down there, just me. So by the time they wanted to take my blood, my whole body was already aching, and the lady that took my blood couldn't get my vein, you know, so many things. I was crying, they were crying, like, oh, we're just so exhausted. And by the time we were done, I was just like, oh mom, we need to get ourselves something nice. So we went to Sport Ikeja, one of my favorite spots, especially because they have a kids area where they can play, where they can, you know, just have fun and all of that. Oh my god! yourself. Anybody that injured themselves is going back to the hospital.
Mom, I didn't injure myself.
Anybody that injured themselves, go back to the hospital.
If I hear injured myself. Mommy, look, I don't cry.
So went there, relaxed, chilled, even though there was a lot of traffic before we got there, but at least we shall went there and we left for home. We were to wait 48 hours for our results, and so we got the final results, and it was still the same thing that we had from when they were just children and babies. So my daughter is still a carrier and my son is AC. So, and this test, I advise every single person to take it. If anyone wants any further information about it, please ask in the comment section. I really wish we can ask more questions in the comment section instead of coming to my DM, because more people can learn from it. Ask in the comment section and I'm going to respond to them. So this test is quite explanatory, that you can see how much of S or A or C a certain person has, so you can determine how responsive they can be or exposed they are to whatever traits it is they are carrying. So I could tell now with that result, I could tell why my kids were picking up the C, because my C was quite strong. It was about 79% and my A was only about 21% or 19%, I can't remember. So it was that crazy, and it was so sure that many of my genetic trait was quite strong when it comes to the C type. And with my husband, it was quite 50-50. So this meant that by the time we were going to test this baby, the chances that this baby was going to be a sickle cell carrier was even higher now. However, for every pregnancy, the chances that that child is going to be a sickle cell carrier is 25%. That's the standard medical practice that we know. But when you go deeper into searching and all these parents' genetics and chromosomes and all of those things, it scared me to death, and I felt like, oh my god, what am I going to do? Shout out to the few people that knew what I was going through, that I shared my story with, and they encouraged me leading up to that day, because it felt like it was a long journey. So while we were at Sickle Cell Foundation, I made more inquiries, and then I found out that I wasn't going to have that test at 10 weeks, but 13 weeks. God, they were booked. They were booked till 13 weeks, and I needed to actually make payments so that they could book me so I don't miss that 13 weeks appointment.
So I came in today to make payment for the prenatal diagnosis, and luckily I was able to just do my own vital, so I don't have to come today before the test, and my husband can do his own test.
So I got my dates for the appointment. So I'm now going to dive into what you would need and a few things that I'm going to tell you. So it's a 2 days appointment. If you're going to be outside, if you currently live outside Lagos, it's advisable that you arrive the day before because of queue, and also because the consultant only works 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and you don't know how many people have booked for that same day. So at that time, I think I was already about 9 weeks gone, and they requested a scan and to show the gestational age of the pregnancy, to show if you have any cyst or any underlying issue, to also show the position of the pregnancy, if you have enough amniotic fluid, and they would also collect your blood to test for HIV, so that during the process they do not pass the virus to the baby. They will check for hepatitis, they will check your blood group, if you are O negative, you're going to pay an extra 30,000 naira so that you can get the rest of something injection. And if you are HIV positive, you will not be allowed to do the tests. So yeah, you will not be allowed to do the test. The prenatal diagnosis is in two forms. We have the CVS. I'm going to put the full name when I'm editing this, and then we have the amniocentesis. I'm going to write the correct spelling when I'm editing this, and that's the one I did. So the CVS is quite invasive, and it's the one that you can do at the later stage of the pregnancy. It's transvaginal, so they are actually going into through your cervix to, you know, take the sample. But the amniocentesis is through your abdominal wall, your stomach to the uterus, down to the placenta and all of that. So I had been reading about this, and I think that was when I realized that I was going to record everything that was going on around that time, because from the moment I spoke to my friend about it and the information she gave me, not that she didn't want to give me information, but obviously it's been long and she probably just didn't want to lock that memory in. I didn't get as much information as I wanted, and I went online, the almighty YouTube. I didn't get any clear videos. All I got was animations, graphic illustrations and all of that, but it wasn't enough for me because I didn't want to be traumatized. I was already under a lot of pressure and fear. And I remember when I had my first HSG, then because I did not know what to expect, I went into shock, and I had I don't know what they call that thing, Sha. I was in shock. I went into shock. They had to, like, you know, help me get myself back and put me on admission because of HSG. So I didn't want that kind of thing, and also because I was scared, because this is Nigeria. I wasn't so sure if now I want the pregnancy, so obviously I didn't want this test to now be the reason why I miscarry, even though worldwide it's only, the chances are only about 2 to 5%. I didn't want to be that 2 or 5%, you know. I just wanted to be very careful, but I didn't find anything. So I wrote down a lot of things that was happening at that time. So you are also going to need to run some tests. They are also going to need to run some tests on your spouse, basically the genotype, because they want to know the chances and be able to review it with the results they get. They will also, I don't know what else they checked with the husband, the blood group too. That's all I know for now. Then 2 weeks to, so you're supposed to do the scan 2 weeks to your appointment. So I did the scan at 11 weeks plus, and I sent it to them, and they approved that yes, I could come in on the day I booked for. So because I had gone with my kids around the 11 weeks, I told them that I couldn't come for the day one because my husband wasn't going to be available. So I had my counseling that day, and I recorded the counseling. I'm going to attach a few of them to this video. I recorded it because of my husband anyway. So they are going to ask you questions about how many times you've been pregnant before in your life. You're going to have to be very truthful. How many abortions you've had, how many miscarriages you've had, how many live babies you've had, how many stillbirths you've experienced, if any. And then this will help guide them to calculate the possibility. So it's an ongoing research, right? The idea I had before was that for every pregnancy, like for every 4 pregnancies, you're going to experience the 4 genotype possibilities between you and your husband. But as research went on, I realized that no, for every pregnancy there's a 25% chances of those 4 variants of genotype. So it's not that if you've had 4 kids and one of them is already sickle cell, it meant that the 5th child, or if you've had 4 pregnancies, rather 4 pregnancies, they don't have to be alive, 4 pregnancies, that the 5th one will survive. So that was the mentality I had, and because this was my 6th pregnancy, I just felt like my chances were very good and all of that, but they debunked it. And I feel like every time I read more about this, I felt more scared, and it was difficult to share my fears. My sister was so scared. She knew about it. She was even like, am I sure I want to do it? Can't I just go ahead and have the baby, or just have an abortion or something? Like, because obviously they knew what it would do to me at that time. So we were careful to share the pregnancy news with anyone, not even our parents, because we weren't sure what the outcome was going to be. And if it was a bad news, we wanted to limit how many people was going to just grieve with us. Also, I had now officially spoken to my gynecologist about my chances, and if it came out wrong, and the options I had, which were either to go ahead with it and just deal with the situation, since I was already a warrior mom, it might be easier, or we terminate the pregnancy. The option to go ahead was not there for us, because this is not something I wish on my enemy. It's not easy. We have been very, very, very lucky. We have been very lucky, but I know a lot of people who have not been lucky, and that is where I'm getting to now. So I've told you all the tests that you might be required to run, and the counseling is going to go around pregnancy. At Sickle Cell Foundation, they are pro-life, so they would not be giving you the option of abortion or something. They would leave you to make that decision, but their advices and counseling will tend towards how they are the best at managing sickle cell. But not everybody can afford it, and not everybody lives around Sickle Cell Foundation. There are very limited facilities available for sickle cell patients, which is what we are still advocating worldwide, that there should be enough facilities to help manage the disease. And it was supposed to be a Tuesday and a Wednesday, but because I had done the counseling and my husband had virtually attended, we didn't have to go on that Tuesday. And on Sunday, so the week before that week, which was my 12th week, I just had this imagination that my morning sickness was going to go away, and it helped me to feel better. There's just something about our mind. I had been on admission earlier in the 12th week, but I got discharged on a Thursday. I was at home on Friday, Saturday. I felt good with myself, and I thought this was how I was going to go on. So on Sunday, I took out my laptop, I checked on my pending work, I wrote out my to-do list. I was just full of energy. I was excited. I started to post pictures, because I had just been social media cranky and all of that. I'm going to talk about that when I'm talking about the morning sickness and all of those things that come with pregnancy. And on Monday morning, I woke up, I went to work. I got to work super early, a few minutes to 8 o'clock. I was just enjoying my day. I was excited. I remember looking at my picture, the one a friend gave me for my birthday, which was a picture I took during my 31st birthday photo shoot, and I was just mesmerizing about how pretty and how beautiful I looked, and how my makeup artist, who is my cousin, made me look so beautiful, and how I wanted to continue to feel that way. And so my sister came in to work about 1.5 hours later, and she was like, this life. So that Sunday happened to be July 11th, so that day means July 12th, right? July 11th was when Sam Sultan died, and that same day my neighbor had a stillbirth. So she came in and she was like, God, Sam Sultan's dead, God rest his soul, and I was just like, see this life. You don't know what some people wake up, other people are waking up to. I said, in my house, we're just talking about how Sam Sultan died and everything, and a few hours later we heard that our neighbor had just lost her baby. We're just talking. She was like, Abio, only God knows where they are crying again today. I didn't know she was trying to break a news to me, and oh my God. And she just said Zainab is dead. I know a lot of Zainabs, but it just didn't click. I was just like, what do you mean, which Zainab? And she was like, Adedayo, that she got ill on Thursday and she died last night or early morning Monday. I'm like, how can Zainab die? What happened? What was it? She was doing so well. So Zainab, in my family, we have history of people dying from sickle cell, and so I've always been very cautious about my genotype and, you know, who I was going to date or anything. And I still found myself in this situation, but there was just this vessel of hope that Zainab was for me in particular. And Zainab has been in my life since God knows when. Our brother was my age mate. He died from the same sickle cell when we were 10 years old, and she was 29. She was going to be 29. Her birthday was just a month away from the day she died, and I still spoke to her on Thursday. On Wednesday, you know, I had a sickle cell mama reach out to me in the DM, and she was crying and saying that she's not sure her daughter would get old or something. I was like, oh, I have a cousin who is old. She's, you know, she's done her service. She's a badass makeup artist. She's living her life. I just hope she finds the man of her dream, you know, get married and, you know, just prove these old statistics wrong. And just prove these old statistics wrong, you know. And I requested from Zainab that, oh, can I give your number to this woman just so you can tell her. She was like, oh, it's okay. How is it that on Wednesday and then Thursday she got here, and then 3 days later she's gone? You know, I couldn't just take it. Like, I was just like, I was scared. You know, this is somebody's daughter, and I had a daughter. I know she's no longer in pain, but the past few years has been so good, so good. She did my makeup for my 31st birthday, all the videos and everything. She directed everything, you know. And she was even accusing me of not posting them, and I'm like, she didn't, because she didn't know I was pregnant, and I was just social media cranky at the time, and I told her, oh, I'll post it, you know. Even that Wednesday, she was like, I didn't post video me, and I'm like, don't worry, I'll post it. Anyway, this was 2 days before I went for the prenatal diagnosis test. So I started to have panic attacks. Before I even got to their house, they had buried her, and I'm like, so quickly, like, is this for real? I think I'm still in denial. It's been months now, and I just feel like, oh, the usual, when I need her, she'll be there. And I'm thinking, so Tuesday, I spent Tuesday grieving and just praying to God and just begging God to just please help me, help my family, help her mom, her siblings, her dad, and every other warrior mama around the world to be able to deal with this. We didn't ask for it, but it happens. And that's why I'm always so hungry and selfish when people still think that for love or for whatever it is they share, they can just go ahead and make the same mistakes that some of us made, or allow the mistakes of medicine define how their life would go. So yeah, people die every day for different reasons, but there's this guilt when it's the reason, when the reason is something you could have avoided. So on Wednesday morning, we're supposed to get to scarf before 8 a.m. but I was just scared. I wanted to cancel the appointment. I was just like, I'd rather just live in denial than finding out or anything, you know. So, but anyway, we went, and my husband encouraged me, and obviously when we went grieving for Zainab on Monday, my mom saw that I was pregnant, and you know, so she also joined in encouraging me, and I just felt like, okay, we have to do this. We got there and met other couples. I met a couple, they have 2 kids. They came for their own doctor's appointment, not for the test, and their 2 kids are sickle cell. They looked so healthy and happy, and that sort of like encouraged me. But still, there was just this thing in my chest that kept hurting me, that kept haunting me, making me feel like I'm a failure, or something terrible was going to happen to me or my child or something. You know, how do you groom a child for 29 years? And anyways, so the tests proper, you're going to have to go into a sanitized area, obviously COVID and everything. And one of the things that I didn't like about the whole situation was that they didn't let my husband in, and they said COVID protocols or something, I'm not sure, but I didn't like it at all. I don't like to go through procedures like that and I'm left alone. It scares me the more. So they took out all my clothes, my jewelry, my phone and everything, sanitized it, and gave me a scrub to wear, covered my hair, covered my nose and everything. And at this point they said I couldn't even record, and you know, it just shattered the whole idea of recording the experience for other people to learn. So you are going to stay in a waiting area to relax and take some water so that you can have a full bladder. That would help them to see the position of the placenta and the baby very well. So I took a lot of water and I was fine. I was going through your mind.
Positivity.
Are you that optimistic? I don't even know where I lie.
Sorry?
I don't know where I lie. I'm in between scared, anxious, optimism, and
Scared? What are you scared?
realistic.
What are you scared?
What's there not to be scared about? Chances are crazy slim. And everything is just so ironic.
That's right.
I'm losing someone to the same thing just 2 days ago.
Well, she didn't die for the crisis.
It could be from the use of drugs has affected her liver. And that's just the uncertainty. You will never know because of the kind of situation.
She's SS, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking maybe just. I just been on that dog since one year. So to me, maybe just want to maybe just take us with some.
But she has not used her drugs in like 3 months.
Yeah, I know.
So we can take her on Sunday. But we need to get this off away first, because I can't even function in any other thing. Fingers crossed. Hopefully by Monday we know where we are going. Yep. Yeah, I had to change position because now my kids are in my room. Anyway, so I was in the waiting area for approximately 10 to 15 minutes before they called me in. I was pressed and they were sure that they could get, the fluid. So what the amniocentesis is that they are going to use a needle, and I am not joking. This needle should be about 20 to 25 inches long. Inches this long. With very big syringe bulb, and they would insert it into your tummy. So let me start from the beginning. So when I got into the room, another thing I didn't like was there was no talk like, oh hi, confirming your name, do you know why you are here, are you scared, and all those things. Just Nigerian hospitals now, just something to make you feel comfortable and know that you're not the first and you're not going to be the last, and all of that, just to prepare your mind and know what is coming up. They were just talking about salamis. They were busy discussing how salamis was expensive, and chicken and fish and all of that. Anyway, I laid down, and the gentle lady who I met during the counseling, she recognized me, helped me, undress my tummy area and my pelvic area. So it would be a good idea to shave before you go, so you don't go expose yourself and embarrass yourself. Anyway, so they cleaned my tummy. So you're going to clean your tummy about 5 to 7 times, and it was quite uncomfortable because they kept applying pressure. So they're going to clean your tummy with something just to sanitize the place and keep the place free of germs, just so that nothing is transferred to the fetus. So they cleaned my tummy, and after cleaning my tummy, they ran a scan. So the scan will show them exactly where the baby is and where the placenta is, because they want to avoid poking the baby or the placenta. So they want to avoid poking the baby or the placenta to avoid any damage, because these are some of the things. So that's the 2 to 5% spaces they've left, because these things can actually happen. So the scan, they confirmed how many weeks gone I was. They could see the cysts. So they had to avoid 3 things. The baby had to be calm. So if you're unlucky like the lady that came before me, she took a long time. When we were talking, she said it took a long time because her baby was moving around. So the baby has to be calm and in one position. Your placenta has to be visible, and if there's a fibroid or anything, they just want the amniotic fluids. So they first administered an analgesic. So it's also in form of an injection through the tummy into the uterus to numb the area where they need to get the fluid from, so you don't feel the pain and all of that. That was quite painful, very, very painful. And I think that it had not kicked in before the sonographer or the doctor, whoever the person was, he didn't introduce himself anyway, put the bigger needle. So I felt every inch of it, and I moved, and it was like, why would you move? I'm like, it's so painful. He said, oh, I shouldn't worry, it would go soon. And I just felt like they needed to confirm that the analgesic got kicking before they start doing it. Anyway, before we knew it, about a few seconds after that complaint, I stopped feeling the pain. I just felt the tugging of him pushing it in, and there's another guy. So there are 2. One is holding the scan thing in place so that the doctor can see where it's poking, and they're trying to get the fluid. And so he drew out some. They put it on a petri dish immediately. I think the other lady who was also in front of me said that it wasn't enough. He needed to get more, about 20 cm or so. So he digged in again, took some more, and dressed. So when he was done, he removed the syringe and the catheter, and then he dressed this site. So it wasn't like a big wound or anything, but they still had to cover it because obviously there was blood and you don't want anything to go in. So I'm here waiting for my turn. So he dressed the sides, and they cleaned me up and everything and told me to go to the waiting area. So you're going to have to lie down on your left side for 30 minutes before you can go. So there's no rushing home or anything. So I was there for about 35 minutes. The lady who brought me in came, brought my clothes, gave me my phone, and so I could dress up, and I went to meet my husband waiting for me in the lobby. And using the stairs was quite uncomfortable, and I got into the car. I couldn't sit up straight, so I had to sit back down. So now the analgesic was gone, and that meant that the pain was back with my pelvic pain. And now I started to feel nauseous again, started to throw up, felt hungry. But luckily the ride home wasn't quite bumpy or anything. My husband was quite careful. So the second, oh my god, so I'm done now. And it was painful, but not unbearable. So I'm going to lie down. So sticking from here, I'm going to lie down for 30 minutes. I'm going to be on bed rest for another 2 weeks to avoid any miscarriage. Sir, I've left everything to Almighty Allah to decide the outcome. We've done our parts. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the only reason you'll be saying this is if it ended in praise. Second phase of prenatal diagnosis is actually after you've done the test. It takes 5 working days. So imagine the tension, and you will not be allowed to have sex for the next 10 days. I did 14 days just to be safe. And you are not allowed to move or travel or go outside of your bed for 2 days straight. I did 3 days. I didn't want stories that touched. So I was on my bed from that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday afternoon was when I started to move around the house, and by Monday I was back to work. You might experience some spotting. Please report it immediately. The good thing is their customer service is quite very, very, very impressive. They called me that Wednesday evening if I was feeling any pain or if I saw any blood or anything. I didn't see anything, but by the time I woke up on Thursday, I had started spotting. I don't know if I was spotting or I had brownish discharge, but I was scared. I didn't contact them. I just kept calm and used my prenatal drugs and just trusted God, and I used paracetamol. So you can use paracetamol or ibuprofen 30 minutes after the procedure is done if you feel too much pain. I didn't have to use anything. I was on my bed on Saturday when I got a call from my handler at Sickle Foundation, and she's like, "Hi, I have a number of yesterday." I'm like, "Hi." So I thought she was just calling to check up on me if I felt anything or anything that strange had happened. I'm like, "Oh no, I'm okay." And she's like, "Your results are how?" Like, oh my god, I didn't hear what she said. She said the results, but I didn't hear. I hung up and I called her again. I'm like, "Are you for real? Are you for real?" I thought you said 5 working days. She was like, oh, we usually say that so that you don't put us under pressure and all of that. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, are you for real? Like, for real? My husband was beside me. I woke him up, babe. The result is out. The result is out. You know, the kids were looking at her. They didn't understand. I went to my mail. They had sent it. I looked at it. And I think I just started to cry. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for not making me lose 2 things in the same week. Thank you, God. And I told myself that this child at least will have a name called Adeshala, because Zainab was called Adeshala. I didn't care whether, and luckily it was a unisex name, so we didn't mind. And our next journey began. So I'm going to tell you the result of the test in the next video, and what we did after we got the test. Thank you for watching, and please do say a prayer to my lovely cousin Zainab Adeshala Adedayo. May her soul continue to rest in peace, and please say more prayers to everyone who has lost a warrior, because as at the time I was telling this story, another warrior mama lost her baby who was just a little over a year to sickle cell, and so many like that. So please say prayers for us warrior mamas. The struggle is real, and I do not encourage you to go ahead in this journey because you think that you can have IVF or genetic testing or prenatal diagnosis or anything. This is strictly for those who are already in those shoes and are looking for the way forward. Thank you for watching, and I really do hope you enjoyed it.